Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the fifth webinar of the World Coffee Producers Forum. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today. Before we start, we're going to have a few quick points for our audience. First one is we have interpretation into English. It's English, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. Speakers are going to be speaking in English, and you can choose your channel in the icon in the lower part of your screen. There's a little planet there. Choose your icon for Spanish, French, or Portuguese. Antes de arrancar, buenos días a todos, bienvenidos. Tenemos un punto de práctico. Rápidamente, para efecto de la traducción, todos los panelistas van a hablar en inglés. Los van a encontrar en la parte de abajo un icono que es como un planetica. Ahí opriman ese icono y ahí encuentran su idioma, portugués, francés o inglés, y escojan su traducción y ahí podrán ir siguiendo el webinar. Vanusia, ¿podemos decir lo mismo en portugués?
Bom dia a todos. Nós queremos só dar uma instrução inicial de que todos nós falaremos em inglês, mas esse seminário hoje tem tradução simultânea para português, espanhol e francês também. Basta vocês procurarem o ícone no rodapé da página, é um ícone de um globinho escrito interpretação, e ali vocês podem plugar para português para escutar a tradução simultânea em português. Bom evento a todos.
Muchas gracias, Vanusia. Muchas gracias. El Foro Mundial de Productores nació, para recapitular un poquito, the World Coffee Producers Forum, I said everybody, all the speakers are going to be in English. The World Coffee Producers Forum was born in 2017. The first meeting we had was in 2017 in Colombia. As you can remember, we had a huge success in Colombia, huge event. Where the second, in 2017, the second one took place in Campinas in Brazil in 2019. And it was, both were very, very successful, very big. We had people, we had President Juan Manuel Santos from Colombia, former President Clinton, presidents from at the time from Honduras, former Vice President of El Salvador, several ministers from Africa, from Latin America, from Asia. And then we had our third meeting, our third big gathering was scheduled to be in person in Rwanda, in Kigali in 2021, July 2021. Because of COVID, we decided to open in two parts. The first part was took place in July of this year in Rwanda, hosted by Rwanda. We had a very, very impressive group of panelists from the experts on development and sustainability, and also with the frame of former president of Costa Rica, José María Figueres, and former prime minister of Ethiopia, Hailemariam Desalegn. He was there, as well as Professor Jeffrey Sachs, who has been accompanying this process and working with us along this process. We have scheduled the second part of this of the forum, or the third meeting of the forum, for July 2022, July 11th and 12th, 2022, in Rwanda, in Kigali, in Rwanda. And our Rwandese team is working very hard on this, our hosts, and we're going to give the word in a minute to Mr. Claude Bisimana, who is the CEO of NAEB, the National Agricultural Export Board of Rwanda, who has been the leader in putting together the forum in Kigali. But before we get there, as you may recall, we had webinars on May 19th, 2020, on global coffee production during COVID-19, during the COVID-19 crisis. We had a second webinar on May 26th of 2020 as well. The first forum on May 19 of the 20th was producing country leaders talking about how to deal with coffee production in midst of the COVID crisis. On May 26th, we had industry leaders talk about the same topics from the industry perspective. Then we had two regional forums, well, fora on July 29th of the 20th, which was basically about Latin America, how to produce coffee during and after the pandemic. We had on August 27th, we had African coffee and COVID-19, how are we securing our future in the market? So that was led by and conducted by our African coffee colleagues and leaders. And now we have our fifth meeting, virtual meeting, about the new challenges after COVID-19 and now what? And we named it and now what because in each of the previous fora, we said that arbitrarily, I must confess a little bit, that maybe December 31st of 2021 was going to be the moment, the turning point when we would start to be on our way out of the crisis. I think we were right in that assessment. I think we are, that's a personal opinion, we are on our way out of the whole situation with the vaccines and the medicines that are coming out. You may have seen today the Financial Times, there was news that the Pfizer pills for treating COVID are very, very effective, are proven to be very, very effective. So we seem to be in a good track to deal with that. So that's the reason for this panel. And now what? So what's going to happen with coffee production now? How much are we going to produce? How are we going to produce it? Are there any changes? Then we're going to see the crisis have deepened all the issues with logistics. So the second point is, are we going to be able to deliver coffee to the world? And the third point is, is our diversity and quality going to suffer because of the crisis and what happened along this time? Maybe yes, maybe not. So those are the questions that we, under which we have framed this conversation with coffee leaders. And we're going to have our next forum, the number 6, in January of 22 of next year. We don't have the exact date yet. We're going to have covered the same discussion, but with industry leaders, not just the producers, but also the industry to see how they see it and what they think. Before I introduce our panelists, I want to underscore that for the National Federation of Coffee Growers of Colombia, it's a big honor and a big responsibility that leaders in the World Coffee Producers Forum have asked us to coordinate this process. This is not a federation work. This is a whole global work that we coordinate on behalf of producers from all over the world, all the members of the forum, and everybody else who wants to be part of this effort that seeks at moving towards achieving a better awareness of the coffee growers agenda and achieving coffee growers prosperity in the future. I would like to have our CEO, Roberto Vélez, just say a few words about how we've been working on this inside the Federation. Again, as I said, we've been coordinating this, but there's a big team behind us working on this. So Roberto, if you have a few words.
Yeah, thank you, Juan. Just to welcome all of you, say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. You said it right, Juan. It's an honor and a privilege of being able to serve as coordinators of this World Coffee Producing Forum. For us, yes, it implies time, resources, and people devoted to this, but with this, we hope we play our role of being able to put together the willingness and the attention of the coffee producers and the coffee world to talk about the different issues that we are all concerned and we want to move forward. So thank you very much for allowing us to serve as your coordinator. Juan, back to you.
Thank you, Roberto. And this leads me to our next quick point, before introducing the speakers and Claude, we've been working now for a couple of months with a digital media agency in bringing ahead the agenda of producers. We have an Instagram page that's being very active. If you guys want to write it as W Coffee PF, again, W as world, W Coffee, P as in producers, F as in forum. And we also have a Facebook page. Just look at it in English, the World Coffee Producers Forum, and you will find it. Why do I say this? Because until now, you've been hearing a lot about us, the Federation, coordinating and working on all the issues, on logistics issues and communicating and so on. But what we intend to do here is to have many more coffee producing countries leaders being very active and vocal and speak in our digital media. We're gonna be having some interviews, and we're gonna bring the views from people from different countries, different regions, to give it a more global flavor, and show the true leadership of the forum, which is, as I said before, the Federation is coordinating, but we're not the owners or the leaders of the whole thing. It's a big global group, and we want to use the digital media to have everybody speak out and have videos and so on. So you will hear from many more leaders, coffee producing leaders and industry leaders as well, and some others in the weeks and months to come, and for a long time, and very focused on telling everybody what comes next for the forum, for the meeting in Kigali, in Rwanda. So before I give the floor to Claude, let me give you a little bit of the flow of the forum. We're going to have a representative from different regions in alphabetical order. So we're going to have first from Africa, Ambassador Solomon Rotega, who is the Secretary General of the Inter-African Coffee Organization, speak about the situation in Africa. Again, the frame for the conversation, he's going to be speaking for 5 to 7 minutes or so. The frame of the conversation, as I said before, is what now in the topics we said before. Then we're moving to Asia. First, we're going to have the chairman of the COFA, Mr. Tu, who's going to be talking about Vietnam and what to expect in Vietnam now. And then we're going to have the chairman of the India Coffee Trust, Mr. Anil Bandari, who is going to be talking about the rest of Asia. From then, we're going to move to Brazil with Vanusia Nogueira, who, as you know, leads the Brazil Specialty Coffee Association, and she will be talking about what now in Brazil. Then we have Roberto Vélez, who is the CEO of the Colombian Coffee Growers Federation, and then he's going to talk about Colombia, of course. And then we have René León representing Mesoamerica, that being Central America, the Caribbean, basically, and Peru, and Mexico. So he's going to be talking about Mesoamerica. So after that, after the presentations, we're going to have a session of questions and answers. Those of you in the audience who want to pose any questions, just put them in the chat feature of this on your screens. Just write them, and we will pose the questions to the panelists after the presentations. So without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to Claude Bisimana, the CEO of FNAEB in Rwanda, and so he can tell us a little bit what Rwanda has been doing, which is a lot, to organize a very successful meeting in July of this year. So Claude, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Juan, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending where you're connecting from. Let me start by thanking Juan for this invitation to the 5th webinar of the World Coffee Producers Forum. I'm Claude Bisimana. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the National Agriculture Export Development Board, which is the coffee authority in Rwanda. As you all know, Rwanda is the host of the 3rd World Coffee Producers Forum, and it's an honor and privilege for Rwanda to host such kind of a meeting. On July 15th this year, Rwanda hosted the first part virtually. It was a half-day conference with more than 2,000 people from 70 countries discussing about solutions for many issues threatening farmers' livelihoods, but also coffee production. It was also an opportunity to focus on Rwanda because we had the intention of showcasing Rwanda for the participants, and really wanted the participants and the entire coffee fraternity, producers fraternity, to really have the interest for the official in-person forum in July 2022 in Kigali. And so far we have set the dates, 11th and 12th of July next year. So you are really encouraged to spread the word so that at least we have a very good attendance in person in Kigali. So what has been happening so far regarding the global challenges of COVID-19? Rwanda is back in business in terms of allowing conferences, especially international conferences, to take place in Rwanda. As you know, COVID is now a threat to having in-person meetings around the world, but Rwanda is now open and has been able to vaccinate almost 50% of the population. I was looking at the statistics of today, where they've compared number of COVID vaccines administered as a percentage of the population. So Rwanda comes on top on the continent with around 73%. So almost in Kigali, you have 90% coverage in terms of vaccination, fully vaccinated. So Rwanda is really set to have this meeting happening in July on 11th and 12th, 2022. And you've mentioned the Inter-African Coffee Organization by mentioning its Secretary General, who will be taking the floor in a minute to talk about things that are happening in Africa. I just want to inform you that we've had a very successful meeting of the Inter-African Coffee Organization 2021 annual meetings in Kigali from 16th to 18 November. And the annual meetings comprised the African Coffee Research Network General Assembly. We had the 9th African Coffee Symposium. We had the 61st Annual General Assembly of the Inter-African Coffee Organizations, as well as high-level policy forum, including ministers of agriculture, of trade, of commerce around the continent, some participating virtually, others being present in the room. So this is an opportunity, again, to thank you, Juan, for this opportunity to participate to this 5th webinar, but also take this opportunity to invite the coffee fraternity to be in Kigali next year in July 11th and 12th for the 3rd World Coffee Producers Forum. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Claude. So with that, we're going to move into the panel. As I said before, we had like three main topics to the umbrella of the whole conversation, but the speakers will present all the situation the way they see it. One is what's happening with production, what happens to production now in the respective countries or regions. What about delivering the coffee? So are we going to be able to supply the coffee with all the logistics problems that we have? And third is our diversity and quality going to suffer? Are they the same? How do they see this as producing leaders? So I'm going to give the floor to Ambassador Solomon Ortega, who is the Secretary General of FAYACO, to give us in 5 to 7 minutes the overview of what's happening in Africa. So Ambassador Ortega, please. The floor is yours.
Ambassador, your microphone is muted.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Yuan. Thank you for the introduction and the invitation to be able to attend this event. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to all the participants and distinguished guests. Let me just start by thanking the organizers of the World Coffee Producers Forum, especially Mr. Wan for this 5th edition of the webinar. These are very good platforms for us to have exchange of ideas and also to come up with solutions to deal with the ever changing and uncertain time we live in. The questions I seek to specifically address, the 3 questions, which is, will we produce enough coffee for the world? Secondly, will the logistical challenges continue to hamper the coffee trade? And thirdly, will the quality and diversity be affected? So I would like to share the African perspective on the what now and the future prospects of the African coffee industry. On the first question of the production, whether the African continent is capable of filling the gap caused by the devastation of the Brazilian crop, in the short term, Africa's production is expected to remain stagnant and probably with a decline. For the last several years, since 2018, production in Africa has oscillated between 17 to 18 million 60 kilogram bags, which is about 10 to 11% of the global share. And out of this, 25 coffee producers in the region. Out of these 25, 6 countries contribute approximately 92% of the total production, while 2 countries, Ethiopia and Uganda, contribute nearly 70% of the total production. Now, sadly, for several years, we have the sector has been encumbered by a number of constraints along the entire value chain, especially those pertaining to low farm level production and productivity. We've also had challenges in terms of financing for the industry and also inadequate value addition infrastructure. These are just a few. There are so many other challenges. Of course, the pandemic has further exacerbated the situation, but we nevertheless remain optimistic in the medium to long term that we're able to fulfill this gap. The good news is the global prices have been going up. Domestic coffee consumption in Africa and other parts has been going up, especially among the youth. And African producers continue to respond positively to the market forces and increase to be able to fill this gap. Currently, half of the coffee consumption in Africa is still imported in the form of finished products. Therefore, this is a gap that we see as an opportunity for increased production of value addition. In 2019-2020, the African continent exported 12.6 million bags of green bean and also consumed the same amount. However, 60% of the imported coffee in roast form was from abroad, and this translated in some losses on the foreign exchange earnings for the continent. So there's a big opportunity there. We see an opportunity, not a big gap that can be filled. We also encourage, we see some increase in exports, especially in the case of Uganda. Production has more than gone up by about 50% the last 10 years. And this is very encouraging as one of the key producers in the region that contributes about 40% of Africa's production. And the production interventions and the value addition interventions that have been undertaken are now benchmarks for other coffee producers in the continent. The Ugandan case, which is a success, has shown that once the government and the private sector and civil society work together, you're able then to transform the coffee sector. They have provided seedlings and high-yielding seedlings to farmers. They have provided extension services, fertilizers and inputs to farmers. They've supported the coffee research and development centers. They've also undertaken a lot of training programs for good agronomic practices and quality certification. And they've also embarked on a domestic coffee consumption campaign for the youth. So these are interventions that make us optimistic that we can fulfill and meet this gap, and that this is an opportunity for the African continent to make sure that they provide investment and work with the private sector and also build on the coffee value chain. So on the question of production, medium, long term, we are optimistic and bullish that we shall be able to meet the gap. On the second question of logistical challenges exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, here, our view is that the logistic challenges have not really had a significant impact on some of the exports. We have continued to export despite the high increase in freight prices. Most of the coffee is shipped by sea, and we have continued despite these bottlenecks. For most of our producers, the most difficult phase was during the first phase of the COVID pandemic. That was when we had restrictions. That's when we had the lockdowns. That was in January 2020 to October 2020. And after that, we see an improvement in terms of the logistics. But the prices are still high. Pre-COVID prices for a 40-foot container from the port of Mombasa to the European port ranged between $2,000. And during the COVID, the prices went up to nearly $5,000. So this has continued to be a challenge, but despite this, the cushion that we get from the recent increase in the global prices lends a bit of support. However, we believe that if there are no restrictions and lockdowns, the sector is able to correct itself on the logistics. Now, the third question on quality and diversity, whether it will be affected. Again, here, in the short, we remain optimistic that quality from the African coffee producers is going to improve. Why do I say that? The interventions that we see from some of the coffee producing countries are very encouraging. We see a lot of farmer sensitization and training on good agronomic practices, post-harvest handling practices. We see a lot of support on the quality certification with registered certified institutions. We see promotion of domestic consumption through barista championships with universities, trade fairs. These are all very encouraging signals from the African coffee producers that the quality and diversity will improve in the medium to long term. We are encouraged that there are many opportunities in the African continent. We have the youngest population. The average age, according to the UN report, 41% of the African population is under 15 years old. 56% between 15 and 64 years. So this is key for any future economic growth globally. So this is a very, very big opportunity for the region. More importantly, we see an increasing number of cafes and other retail outlets serving different blends of coffee origins in several African cities. This is also very encouraging that we have a very good future for the coffee sector. And then finally, the creation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. This is also an opportunity to develop the interregional coffee trade. As we embark on the domestic coffee consumption for the young generation, this international regional free trade area will also provide us with an opportunity to meet the gap within the continent as the per capita coffee consumption increases. Mr. Chairman, I wish to submit. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ambassador Ortega. Now we move to Mr. Tu, who is the chairman of the Vietnam Coffee and Cocoa Association, who is going to give us the perspective of Vietnam in this regard. Mr. Tu, the floor is yours.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Zuan. Good morning and good evening. Vietnam is evening. So I'm very glad to hear all of you and talk and say to you about the Vietnam coffee. First, I would like to mention about the coffee, Vietnam coffee producing situation. So you know, many factors affected to the coffee producing in Vietnam. First, about we know the oil price increasing, and fertilizer also increasing, and the COVID-19 social distance, so labor costs increasing. And the third part about the, you know, the competition from other trees, because other trees more value than the coffee, like durian, like passion fruit, like avocado, the price much better than coffee. That is why many farmers, they cut the coffee tree and grow another tree in be affected for the long term for the Vietnam coffee producing. And second, we talk about the logistic. You know, as is the speaker before, most of Vietnam coffee we transport by the sea, by container, and the container price increased by about 5 times, and the time for transportation also longer than before. Normally, before we ship the container from Vietnam to Europe, it takes about 1 month, but now 1.5 months. So that is why the cost for the logistic is increasing. And you know about that is why the last year the export also reduced. If we compare with the last crop, the crop we just finished in September. So on the export production reduced by 8% compared with the last crop. And talking about the production in Vietnam for the next crop, as you know, first about the old coffee tree in Vietnam still more than 100,000 hectares. So we need to replace a new one. And the old coffee tree, the production is lower. I think about maybe half compared with the other. Then the production for 100,000 hectares also old coffee tree. We need to replacing for 10 years later. And the second about the climate. Vietnam is one of the 5th country in the world affected by the climate, by the weather, the flood, and also the dry and another changing every month. That is why affected to the coffee. And you know the price crisis already lasts for 4 years, and now the price start going up compared with 10 years. Highest compared with 10 years. But that is why the most farmer, they don't have the money to invest in the coffee tree. This also affected to the coffee, and they don't have enough money, financing problem for buy the fertilizer and other, and also the labor costs. That is why the coffee production in Vietnam also reduced. and we already survey most provinces have a big quantity like Đắk Lắk, Lâm Đồng, Gia Lai, Kon Tum, and Đắk Nông. Most production is lower than before, and we forecast the production will be reduced by 15% compared with the last year. So that is all situation I would like to share with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tu, on this overview of Vietnam. Very, very illustrative and educational for all of us. So now we move to Anil Bhandari, who is the chairman of the India Coffee Trust, who's going to give us an overview of the rest of Asia in general. So Anil, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
okay,
sir.
Good. Okay, good. Thank you, Juan. And I would like to start by thanking the Federation, Juan and Roberto, for really driving this WCPF. They are doing an admirable job, really. And I think producers around the world should thank them for their service to the producers. With regard to India, let me go there. We were looking at a stable crop of about little more than 6 million bags when we did our estimates in sometime in July and August. But then in November, late October and in November, we had unusually heavy and continuous rains, which has dented, according to the producers, dented our Arabica crop anywhere from 5 to 50% in certain areas. And there has been some damage to our Robusta crop also. We are unable at this point to give any specific numbers. I think that is being worked on by the Coffee Board of India. And maybe by the time the Arabica harvest gets over in January or early February, we will be able to get a sense of how much damage has taken place. We've had no real damage to plants as such. The damage is basically to the crop because of the moisture. With regard to export and logistics, while things were quite bad in 2020 and in early parts of 2021, things are seeming to sort of sort themselves out, at least to a small extent, where logistics and transportation is concerned out of the country. As regards domestic consumption, we are still a stagnant domestic consumer with not much to show for an increase in consumption. The main reason is that whatever surplus we have an export market for it. So therefore, there's really not much coffee left over for the domestic market. And if it has to go to the domestic market, it has to outbid the export market. And that is a little difficult. Furthermore, we also have a closed system where India has a duty component of 100% for import of any coffee. And to date, the producers in India have not been given a good enough reason to change that factor. And until and unless they're convinced that reduction of duty on import of coffee will lead to prosperity for them and prosperity for the Indian economy, they will always be against import of coffee at lower duty rates. On the trade side, India has been in the recent months open discussions with the United Arab Emirates with regard to specialized trading platforms and specialized duty concessions for trade in coffee between the UAE and India. There has also been a discussion between the Indian coffee sector and Vietnam with regard to coffee trade, to see if it is possible to generate greater coffee trade between India and Vietnam. As it is, India imports a significant amount of coffee from India, but most of it, all of it, in fact, is in course of re-export from India to be converted to soluble and re-exported out of India. We have not yet seen any international coffees coming in any bulk into the domestic market. That time, having said that, let me touch on a few things as I'm chairman of the Private Sector Consultative Board of the ICO. There are certain worrying trends that we see with regard to how things are moving in the ICO. We've had a major African country resign from the ICO, and we've had a major Asian country say that they will not continue and sign the agreement in February. If this is the case, and if the ICO is going to be weakened, I think it is important for the forum to strengthen regional cooperation between Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and to build up strong Asian producer blocks, and also initiate trade linkages between the various blocks, so that in the event that the international organization is not able to survive properly, or is not able to survive in its fullest form, we should have an alternate structure in place to help the coffee industry. The Coffee Producers Forum has a great opportunity in generating cooperation, in regional cooperation between organizations. We don't have a regional organization in Asia as yet. And I feel that our government and the Asian producer governments should get together and create a nation bloc as on the official level. And I feel that we should also create on the unofficial, that's the private sector level, linkages between the Asian producing countries. We have made an approach to our government to do that. And our government is receptive to that. And they would be, I'm sure, reaching out in the coming months to Indonesia, Vietnam, Papua New Guinea, and other Asian producing countries to see if we can get together and form a group. And if we do have a group, I think the forum can become a catalyst to bring us all together to have substantive discussions. And hopefully by July, when we do meet in Kigali, there will be something to talk about from a regional cooperation basis driven by the forum. I think that is it from me. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good day.
Thank you, Anil, very much for your overview and your comments. Very insightful, always, as always. Now we move to Brazil. Vanusia Nogueira, who leads the Brazilian Specialty Coffee Association, is going to talk, of course, about Brazil. Everybody's very waiting for her words, being the biggest producer and at the same time the second biggest consumer in the world. So Vanusia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Juan. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. First of all, I would like to say to Anil that I hope we can revitalize the ICO and we can work together, the forum and ICO. This will be my challenge, I hope, from May of next year for the next 5 years. Well, talking now about Brazil, I would like to start with talking a little bit about COVID in Brazil. As you know, probably all of you know that Brazil suffered a lot with the COVID during the end of last year and the beginning of this year. Fortunately, now we have 75% of our population already full vaccinated, and we already started the third doses. I myself already took my third dose last Friday. And the life, it's returning slowly to the normal, step by step, very carefully here in Brazil, but we are returning to the normal. Talking about the producing here in Brazil, the production, the coffee production here in Brazil. As you know, we had a lot of problems and we're suffering a lot of challenges this year here in Brazil. Last year, we have a crop, it was almost a record for Brazil. Last year, we had 64 million bags produced in Brazil. This year, the forecast, it's between 47 and 49 million bags this year. We don't have the closed numbers yet, but this is the estimations that we have right now. And then we faced during all the year a very severe drought in Brazil, and also in some areas very severe storms too. And then we have in the south the drought, and in the north of Minas Gerais and Bahia and Espírito Santo, very severe storms, and also 3 frosts in June and July during our winter time here in Brazil. With all these events, weather events that we have here, the researchers are estimating that probably we will have next year a crop very similar to this year. This means around 49 million bags next year, okay? This will be the reflection of the frosts and also the drought. And the researchers are advising us that the frost issues will reflect also in the crop of 23. Because many of the plantations we needed to cut the coffee trees because of the frosts. The other point that we have here for challenging the producers is the fertilizer prices and offers. There is a lack of offering of fertilizers here in Brazil, and the prices are very, very high. It's almost a triple prices that we used to pay until last year. And we are talking the prices in dollars, not in reais. This means that we are facing a lot of problems here, a lot of issues, but also a lot of opportunities to grow in different ways and to look for more productivity here in Brazil. But these are the numbers that we have at this moment for the production here in Brazil. About exporting. Secafé just issued the report from November with the November data. And for this fiscal year, this calendar year, we are 10% less than last year in coffee exporters here in Brazil. And the major problem is logistic. We are facing very high freight prices. It's 4 plus the prices that we used to have. It used to be $2,000, and now a container. Now we are talking about 80 and 10, sometimes $12,000 a container here in Brazil. It's a lot of money. It's very high prices, and also many delays and booking cancellations. And this it's affecting directly the exportation of coffee here, and already reflect in our numbers of exportation in 10% less than last year. For the high quality coffees, very high quality, The producers and the exporters are using air freight transportation for these coffees. And last week, we started to have a new experience here, shipping coffees in bulk, not in containers. Cochupé is doing this first experience, and let's see what will happen when this coffee arrived in the destination. To try to avoid at least the problems with the containers, and to see if we can do this for high volume coffees. For the fertilizers, I'm seeing many comments in the chat. We are already using eco-agro here in restoration of the soil, but the high volume, we need the mineral fertilizers yet. We have a lot of experiences on that, but we need the mineral fertilizers, at least for the short-term production. About consumption, we have stable in 21 million bags of consumption, a very increase during the pandemic time, a very increase in about capsules and drip coffees consumptions. And also we are seeing the increase of the imported roasted coffees here in Brazil. This year, it's almost the double of last year and the year before. And it's possible to see here now in our supermarkets coffee from all the regions that are being imported by Strauss, Nestle, and other major industries. And they are bringing the roasted coffee to Brazil, and the consumers can taste all these coffees, and they are liking a lot to have this kind of different origins here in Brazil also. About the specialties or quality, around 20% of the coffee produced in Brazil and also exported from Brazil, it's already 80 plus coffees. They are specialty coffees, and they also rainforest and or 4C organic or fair trade certified coffees. We estimate that 30% of our production, it's sustainable certified coffees, and 20% of our exportation, it's already this kind of coffee, certified coffees with very high quality. And we think that we will still on that for the next years. Someone made some questions before the panel about the default here in Brazil because of these high prices that we are facing in nowadays. And the information that I could get, it's just between 1% and 2% of the contracts. We are having some kind of default issues that we need to claim about these contracts. And about climate change, we are here to try to face the issues with some irrigation, with very high technology irrigation systems, to at least to make this easier for the producers in case of very severe drought again in the future. I think for now it's this one, and thank you again. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about Brazil.
Thank you, Vanusia, very much. We're going to move now to Colombia with Roberto Vélez, the CEO of the National Federation of Coffee Growers of Colombia, to see the overview of Colombia. And then we go to René León.
Thank you, Juan. And once again, hello to everybody. Let me first express our joy to have Vanusia as a new ICO director. That will be absolutely a pleasure to working with you, Anusha. And I'm sure you will make a big, big change of what direction of ICO would be. Second, let us ourselves get a little bit of credit. And I will tell you why. Because we have today high prices or better prices, unfortunately, due to something that we already said in 2017 in the first coffee producing forum. It was us, coffee producers, who first warned the coffee world that we grew coffee in the tropical areas, and that tropical areas were more subjected to have climate shocks. And this is what has happened in Brazil. So 4 years later, after our first World Coffee Producers Forum, where we discuss the disadvantages of seeing our coffee diversity worldwide being failed, and the coffee world being concentrated more and more in few countries, and warning that one day we could see, due to this climate change, a major disaster. Well, this is what has prices at the level where we are today. But it's not only Brazil, it's Colombia as well. We have had 2 years in a row or higher rainy season, and the more raining in the coffee regions. And this year, coffee production of Colombia will be lower in around 7% or around 1 million bags to 13 from 14 million bags. So this picture and this phenomenon of having the weather impacting our coffee world will repeat and will keep repeating through the next years, and probably it will be even harder. And we have to get ready. And that's when we started the World Coffee Producing Forum. We called the international community and we called the industry to form one force, to be just one chain, and all of us concerned of what is happening and trying to find ways to solve the problems. You know what I even have thought? That we should challenge the supply and demand law. And what do I mean by that? Today, when we have a good crop year worldwide, then prices will go as low to discourage us to grow more coffee, where it should be somehow the other way around. When we have a good crop, somehow, and again, I'm maybe saying rubbish here, but somehow we should be rewarded because we have enough product for the industry to survive and to keep the healthy growth of coffee consumption. So yes, the second leg of this is that we are facing these logistical issues worldwide. Then the just-in-time for the industry is over. Nobody can rely now that the shipment of the coffee that you bought from Colombia, the shipment of the coffee that you bought from Africa, Brazil, Asia will arrive on time. So we need to sit with the industry and discuss these issues. We cannot wait until the next price crisis to sit together and say, you know, we don't have, well, our price is not enough to cover our cost of production, and let's sit and talk. No, there are many issues. And when we launch this idea of the World Coffee Producing Forums, the idea was to discuss all these new these new challenges and the next challenges that will come. Because these are the things that we have to be aware of and face. I'm glad I'm hearing from each one of you, the guys that predecessed me on the word, and said an increase of coffee production in producing countries. How glad, how delightful I am of hearing that. But I have a news. In Colombia, the last 3 years, the growth of internal consumption is 10%. 10%. I know it's still small. Our per capita consumption went from 2.2 kilos per person to 2.8 kilos per person. But this is good news for all of us. Because when we gathered together in 2017, we thought that internal consumption in coffee producing countries was one of the ways for us to face and to solve the imbalance between supply and demand of coffee. So we have done our work. And this World Coffee Producing Forum has really been on the forefront of the problems and the issues of coffee. We need to keep on thinking and finding ways to solve our issues for the future. And we need to sit with the industry back again to discuss all these problems. We may go out of COVID-19 next year, and we hope that all of us will be safe and we'll have a safer world. We hoping that we can gather together in Kigali to start discussing all these new issues, all these new topics that are coming on our table and to discuss. Again, as far as Colombia is concerned, look for smaller crops, better qualities. Colombia keeps working on qualities and is not only now growing new coffees, but the way we are processing the coffees is giving our products an even plus on the quality side. Colombia keeps committed to quality 100%, and now sustainability 100%. Those would be the two issues for Colombia in the future. Better internal consumption, better quality coffees consumed internally, and that would be our blueprint for the future. Thank you, Juan, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Roberto, very much for your overview, and you touched a very interesting point that we have discussed, which is the need for the whole value chain. One of the main guiding principles of the World Coffee Producers Forum is that we need to act co-responsibly. We're all responsible of having a value chain that is sustainable and that benefits everybody in the value chain, from producers to all the way to retailers, and to give the right product with the right values to consumers. So that's at the core of the World Coffee Producers Forum, and thank you for bringing up this issue, which is at the core of our whole discussion since we started this in 2016. Let me go now to René León Gómez, who is the Secretary General of Prome Café, that groups the Central America, Caribbean, Mexico, and Peru in coffee producing countries, to speak about the region. So René, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Juan Esteban. Good morning and good afternoon to all. Thank you for the opportunity to share some information about our region. I'm going to speak on behalf of the Mesoamerican region. So as a region, we're producing around 80 million 60 kilo bags. So I'm going to start by saying that the producers in our region are greatly affected by a cumulative effect of several difficult years. Our statistics show a drop in production of around 10 to 15% in some of our countries during the last 3 years. That is a result of the lack of profitability, the impact of climate change, pandemic, and many other challenges we have been facing. So trying to answer the question around coffee diversity and supply, those topics continue to be a challenge for us. Climate change is a big concern in our region. We have had an evident increase in temperature and rain has become very erratic. We had severe storms, hurricanes struck Central America during 2020. So weather has greatly affected production, and it is also affecting conversion rate during the processing of coffee. Pests and diseases have aroused and gained strength. We have had strong cases of fungal diseases and new pests causing problems in our region. Logistic crisis is also causing problems for us. We have experienced more than 100% increase in cost of fertilizers and other inputs. So logistic crisis is also limiting buyers into placing better prices as they buy our coffee. A big concern is how high costs nullify the improvement of prices. Lack of economic sustainability prevails for us. The challenge has become silent as a consequence of higher prices. High costs are not nullifying the impact of an increase in prices. So just to conclude, we feel the producers are far from recovering of many years of very challenging conditions. We feel it is still a long way towards sustainability and prosperity. We as producers continue working hard to keep up our production, our quality, and our diversity. That's a very small resume of what is happening in our region, Juan Esteban. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rene. We have received lots of questions, and I've been trying to group them and try to make sure that under certain topics. I'm going to name three, and I will ask some specific questions for some of you. One is regulations in importing countries. Another one is what to do, how to work together to encourage and make sure that the next generation, the youth, will stay in production of coffee and they don't leave their farms and move to the cities. And the third question is about fertilizers. Why don't producers join forces to produce fertilizers in producing countries directly and not be and do the right research and production? Let me start with regulations. One of the main topics of concern is that sustainability is something that until now, if you have a sustainable production certified by someone or not, but sustainability, you get a premium. The way the world seems to be moving the point the world seems to be moving at is sustainability is going to be the standard. So it's going to be not that you will not be rewarded if you are sustainable, you will be punished if you're not. The point is, how do you see the following? Is it a concern that importing countries will start telling producers, if you're not sustainable, we will not buy your coffee, which will push producers, perhaps they don't have the means to become sustainable, but they will be pushed towards different crops where they don't have all this difficult pressure coming from their buyers. And I would like to start with Vanusia about this topic of regulations and the consequences of punishment or not buying coffee from producers who are not sustainable or not at the standards that some of the importing countries or regions may be looking for, and what consequences that may have for producers who don't have the means to become sustainable. Vanusia, if you have your comments on that.
Well, here in Brazil, we are discussing this a lot, and we would like to show to the world that the coffee in general, it's sustainable, and we are very responsible. The coffee producers are very responsible worldwide, and I think we can work together as a group to show the projects that we are doing about environmental, and also, and most important of that, about social. The major regulations that we are facing right now, they are totally not, but they are almost totally related to environmental issues. And in our opinion, we think that we need to show to the people that coffee production is for the social areas too. And for sure, we will need to lead this with the consumers, with the public relations in itself, to show them that we have many different ways to do the things, and we can prove that. And we already have studies here in Brazil that we started last year, for example, about carbon. And coffee can be very, very good for the neutralization, or including for the negative carbon. And we need to structure that. We need to show this. And for sure, we need to be together to show and to face and address this kind of requirements that we are seeing in many parts of the world.
Thank you, Vanusia. It will be interesting to hear about the same topic from Mr. Tu, if you have any comments on that, on regulations, on sustainability, and on sustainability demands that if not met will end up punishing producers. Some analysts may say, if one is to put those regulations, there should be funding coming from consuming countries, importing countries, to help producers reach the standards that consumers are looking for. There should be a joint work between consumers and producers, exporting and importing countries, to bring the farmers to that level. Mr. Tu, if you can give us the Vietnam perspective on that.
Mr. Tu,
you are muted. You're muted. Okay.
You mentioned about how to join hand on the producer to help each other about the quality, about standard, and about the price. So we know very well the producer suffer a lot, because all the benefit in the hand of the consumer, because the producer for the price account for only about 120 times. We have one time consumer get 19 times. So I remember when we talked in the London Declaration, and we try to convince the consumer to help the producer to keep their living standard, and also find a way to increase the coffee green bean. Otherwise, now the price still very low. If you go back to the old story, about 15 years ago, you know very well, about 1 ton of coffee, about 4,000 US dollars, or more than that. At the time, it was in Singapore in 1990, in 1991. At that time, about 1 ton of coffee, about more than 4,000 US dollars. But now only about 2,000 or more than that. So it means about half of the price compared with the coffee price before. But the cost also increased, the price going down. How do consumers survive? So that is why we talk on the producer, try to join the hand, and also to convince the consumer to keep the coffee price in order to help the producer and to help the farmer to make the living standard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tu. Thank you so much for your views on this. We're going to move a little bit, to change the topic a little to the second, to one of the questions that has come repeatedly in the chat and via email previous to this panel, which is how to keep young people in production of coffee. That includes lots of things from the financial part, education, lots of the social indicators, and so on. I know that this is going to be a main topic at the African Coffee Summit in next year, in February of 2022. So maybe that will be helpful to hear from Ambassador Protega. You know, what's your view on this, and how was the African view on how to keep young people in the countryside in producing coffee, and what are the incentives and how to make it happen? And maybe Renee as well, if you can comment on this. And any other speaker who wants to intervene, of course, you're more than welcome to give us your views on this.
Yeah, thank you, Yuan. Let me give you my just 2-cent contribution on this very difficult question, which cuts across all regions. How do you get young people involved in agriculture? Most of the young youth want to be in the cities. They want to get the, fancy jobs that collect quick money, and agriculture is a very long-term investment. In the case of the Africa Coffee Organization strategy, what we think would be an interesting approach would be to start teaching coffee farming at a very early stage. We can include coffee farming, agriculture as a curriculum in the education system of most of our high schools and even universities. Those that are studying agriculture from a diploma or even degree level, and then also support the value-added approach. What IACO is now trying to do is to open coffee shops in every African university in a major city. Why do we have to start with the middle class of the youth? Once the young youth in the rural areas see that the middle class are going back to the villages to grow coffee, and that the prices are reasonable as they start drinking it, then it will be easy for the youth to go back and start growing coffee. The biggest problem the youth are not keen to grow coffee is because of the low prices. It is hard to survive in the rural areas when the coffee price of a kilo is less than $1. So we have to make the price attractive by consuming what we produce. We must also encourage the training at a very early age as a subject to make agriculture. There's a lady from an African, I've forgotten, it's a video that went viral. I don't know if you saw it, where they said you need to make agriculture sexy. The magazines have to be attractive. The billboards have to be attractive. So we have to find something that the youth find attractive. But the most important is to first drink it, increase the price, make sure that they get involved at an early age, get the universities to open little coffee shops, so that these students are linked to these shops. They grow the coffee, they process it, and also sell it. So this is the approach that we want to start with in the as a pilot under the Drink African Coffee, Build Africa initiative. And I believe once we start at that stage, it will, in the long term, it will take off. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, very much. Rene, do you have your comments on this?
Yes, Juan Esteban. To start, I think it is key in order to have youth involved in coffee. We must have a profitable activity. No young people will be interested in coffee if they're going to continue living the way their parents have lived till now. So it's key to have a profitable activity. They must earn a profit. And next, we must work with youth, involving them into sexy activities, as Ambassador Ortega said, such as the use of technology related to coffee. Precision agriculture is a must in the future. Processing and quality are topics that normally encourage young people to get involved with coffee. New techniques into marketing, farm management and finances are also an important topic in which young people are getting involved. I think we must work into transforming producers into business people. And I think that is a joint work that can be done with the help of youth, using the experience of their parents and using the enthusiasm and the new interest of young people. In that way, we can work towards sustainability. Thank you, Juan Esteban.
Thank you, Rene. I have. Let's move to the next topic. I have 2 or 3 topics that have come of all the many questions, and thank you for all to the audience for all the questions you've been sending. We'll try to, as I said, to group them and have the topics answered by our panelists. Let me go to Roberto on one topic, which is I know, of course, from being inside that that's one of the main topics the Federation is discussing and looking at, which is fertilizers. What to do with fertilizers? What to do with the cost of fertilizers and availability? How to deal with that? Should producing countries somehow work together, or should producing countries try to produce their fertilizers themselves and not rely just on other players in the market? What should be the role there? How do you see it, Roberto? And of course, anyone else who wants to comment on this is more than welcome. But starting with Roberto.
Thank you, Juan. Yeah, definitely. There's no a single producer around the world, nor a single farmer around the world that has not been affected by this new situation of. It's not increase, it is an explosion of the prices of fertilizer. We have to acknowledge that this is a world problem of imbalance between supply and demand. There are few countries who have the raw materials to produce fertilizers. There's been an increase in the prices of oil and gas, who are main sources of fertilizer, raw materials, and that has put us double, or as Manusia said, triple prices for fertilizers. There are several things here. One, the industry must acknowledge this on the price of the product. Number two, yes, there are alternatives, and people talk about all these different ways to make the compost and trying to fertilize organically the coffees. our studies so far have said that our idea of trying to combine the regular fertilizer plus some organic support could be one way to lower the prices. Go all of us organic is probably not an option, not because we don't like it, we would love it, but then our full worldwide production will reduce to the point that maybe we wouldn't have enough coffee for consumers. And the second big question is that we are pushed every day by the new regulations in Europe, US, Asia for chemical traces, and this leads producers also to start thinking on the way to produce coffee organically. But yet the big question is, we will have the amount of coffee to really supply to the industry, number one, and number two, are consumers willing to pay for that? Because this is not for free, it's just more costly. We have to adjust that. On the issue of gathering producers to start a plant or a factory to produce fertilizers, they need more thinking, because again, it's not a matter, we need to find the raw materials, we need to be competitive, and we don't know if after doing all this, we will end up with the same cost that the industry has today to offer to all producers. I think the good news is that if we see the future prices for fertilizer, we can now feel a small relief for the second half of next year. So this could be a good news for us, but still, it is a very complicated issue, because there's, and once again I said, no a single farmer that is not affected by this new situation on the fertilizers.
Thank you, Roberto, very much. I'm going to jump to a question that came, I can imagine, from Roaster, one of our roasting partners from all our producing countries, that I find very, very interesting. And I would like for all of you to answer in no more than 2 minutes the question. And let's start the other way around, go from Rene to Roberto, Vanusia, Anil, Mr. Tu, and Ambassador Ortega. What are the 3 things, in your opinion, that roasters can do to support farmers in 2022 and 2023? If you had to choose 3 things that roasters can do to support coffee farmers in 2022 and 2023. Rene.
Juan Esteban, I think, first of all, they must acknowledge the real value of coffee. If they acknowledge the real value of coffee, they will be in a positive mindset just to pay the proper price of our coffee. Secondly, they must engage and compromise to work together as a value chain, recognizing that producers are the foundations of this big industry. We do not take care properly of producers who have been facing great challenges, then our industry is in big threat. And third, I would say we must work together, generating and new technology and doing research. Coffee production has done research with their own resources, and now it's the time in which all the industry must compromise to support that research in order to face so many challenges producers are facing. Thank you.
Thank you, Rene. Short and sweet. Roberto, same question. The 3 things that roasters can do to support coffee farmers in 2022 and 2023.
Well, definitely price is the issue. When you talk to coffee producers and you say, what would you like and what type of support they would like, they will say, just give me a price. give me a rewarding price, and I will make sure that I can continue moving forward. And I think that is the number one. But number two, we need to start, and this is for the government, but the industry can help, closing the gap between the urban areas and the rural areas, so we can have a much more feasible living business and living environment. And number three, the industry must acknowledge that we must have a better share of the value chain of coffee. This cannot be just 1 year, 2 years. For us, it would be hard to say, okay, I'll give you these 2 years of good prices and then go back to under $1. I mean, that's not the way. We need to start thinking on a price that can make the living of the coffee community a better living, and that's what we are asking, and we've been preaching for something that is not a living income, but a prosperity income. How can we work together under these circumstances? Let's say now we have the conditions. When we are at $1, it's hard to talk to the industry and say, okay, let's fix a price that can be a price that is good for the prosperous income, that allowing families to prosper from generation to generation. Now that we have a better price, we can start and say, okay, let's work from here onwards, with this level onwards, to say how much we need to reach this prosperous income level. That's it, Juan.
Thank you, Roberto, very much. Same point for Vanusia.
Well, Juan, I think right now I thought about 3 points that it's in the same line as René and Roberto. The first one, I think all the roasters need to be open for fair prices. We need to have margin and profitability for all the links of the chain. And we need to be open for that. The second point, it's to think about this relation, not a short-term relation, but a medium and long-term relationship. To think about that now and to look for next year, but also to look for 2, 3, 4 years in the future. And the third point for me, I can divide into one for the big industry and the other one for the micro roasters. For the micro roasters, I think they can work together with these producers in order to promote more these properties, these farms, and to make sure that this from these 2 years or next year and the year after, this property can be known by many consumers, and to get more value about that. And for the big industry, I'd like to suggest to be a partner for the projects involving in the landscape and also the engagement of the young people.
Thank you, Vanusia. Anil.
Thank you, Juan. If you're asking what roasters can do to help the farmer, if I'm looking at it historically, and if I'm looking at what will happen in the future, I'm sorry that to say that I'm pessimistic about there being any real sort of discussion between producers and roasters with regard to raising the living standards of farmers. For one simple reason, the roasters come from a different background and from a different place, and the growers are in a different place. And the two really don't meet. The roasters are responsible to their shareholders and to their bottom line. And certainly the only way they can achieve all this is to get their coffee at the best possible prices from the farmer. which is why for nearly 200 years, we farmers have been commoditized. We have been selling mainly green coffee to the developed world, and they have been adding value, and they have been adding profits to that. And if you look at what has happened in the last 8 to 10 years, when the prices of coffee went down steeply, the other side, the commercial sector, continued to make very good profits. I mean, if anything during that time, despite the fact that organizations like the WCPF and the ICO had appealed to all of them to raise prices some way, somehow, it did not strike a nerve with them. And I do not think that going forward, much will happen. The only thing that I could suggest is that if the roasters could get together in every producing country and promote domestic consumption, generic, not brand promotion, just promotion of consuming coffee, not their own brand, but generally, if they can do that together in cooperation with the growers, maybe something will come out of it, but I'm not that hopeful. Thank you.
Thank you, Anil, very much. Mr. Tu, please. I don't see him here. There he is. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I agree with you, your other speaker view. So I don't have any thing to talk about this subject. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Ambassador Ortega, your comments on the three areas where coffee roasters can support coffee farmers in 2022-2023.
Yeah, thank you. I also have a bit of, I share what Anil just shared, but there are two answers. I'll divide them in two parts. The ideal answer is, of course, price. That is number one. That is what the farmer wants, a stable, fair price. The second thing the farmer wants is recognition that he really matters in this change. So the farmer needs to be involved, cupping competitions and involvement to show that his coffee is very important. Those are things that kind of motivate the farmer. And then the third thing is community involvement, not just coffee. Don't just come and buy coffee. Get involved in some other community activities. This is the ideal relationship between the roaster and the farmer. Now, the reality on the ground, as Anil shared, the roasters are out there to make as much money to get the cheapest product as possible. So they want to get the cheapest coffee, and that's not what the farmer wants. So that relationship has to be balanced. Now, with the market saying they want traceability, they want fair trade coffees, they want all these appellation coffees, maybe the relationship with the roaster and the farmer will improve. But what is ideal is the price is the most important thing for the farmer. The recognition as an important part of the chain, and also to be given that at the cupping competition, the farmer will be very proud that his coffee is considered, and also to know what the consumers think about the coffee. Most of the farmers in Africa don't even know where their coffee goes, what the consumer thinks about the coffee. So there's need to have that gap reduced. So that's what I have to comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Many topics were touched this, and we have a few questions, but I'm going to jump into one which is part of the World Coffee Producers Forum, what we've been working on, and was touched by several of you during the panel, which is farmer prosperity. A big part of our discussion has been we cannot continue aiming low when it comes to the well-being of farmers. And that means we have accepted to some extent, in general, the concept of the living income, which, as you know, means that you cover production cost and your basic needs, and maybe 5 or 10% for extras. And I keep telling people, you know, in different areas, not just producers, is if you were looking for a job and your employer would tell you, or potential employer would tell you, okay, I'm going to pay you in a way that you cover your production, your basic needs, and you have 5 or 10% for extras, would you take the job? And a lot of people say, no, I wouldn't take it. That's not good enough. So why is that good enough for farmers and not good enough for anyone else? And this is what has led the discussions inside the World Coffee Producers Forum towards farmers' prosperity, understood in a way that we create the structure for farmers to have an upwards trending life that will ensure that the children are better than the parents and the grandchildren better than the children. That is, each generation is going to be better off than the previous one. Sounds romantic or sounds maybe utopic, but you have to aim to create the structure for prosperity, not just take people out of poverty and leave them there in suspended animation, because if there's any minor setback in the market, they will go back to poverty. So that doesn't really make any sense. I mean, living income should be like a initial stage towards prosperity, but we need to be working together towards prosperity. And that leads us to one of the main topics we've been discussing in the forum since day one, which is we need to work together, the whole value chain, in a co-responsible manner. That means every single link in the value chain is responsible for the well-being of the whole value chain. That means roasters should be paying a better price. You know, the industry should be working better. There should be more research, more technology, but also there are lots of work to be done by producing countries themselves. We as producers should be doing a lot of our own homework, and that touches all the stakeholders in producing countries: the governments, the producers themselves, producer associations, NGOs, financial sector, and so on. We have issues like pensions, like land titles, like financial inclusion, connectivity. All those things are topics that affect farmers in a big way. And that's why inside the forum we've been discussing how to, and we're trying to create that for the next meeting to present like a guideline for national coffee sustainability plans. What should a national coffee sustainability plan include? The Brazilian plan, the Colombian plan, the Ugandan plan. What we all have the same issues in common. Why don't we create this guideline, this template, to call it somehow, where we look at, okay, what are the topics that we need to cover to have a real, to put our countries on the path to prosperity. And that, as I was saying before, includes not just the relationship between the industry, traders, NGOs, and so on, and producers in the value chain, also the governments, also financial players inside country, financial inclusion, connectivity, tertiary roads. In the case of Colombia, I guess it's not the same in every country, but in the case of Colombia, tertiary roads is one of the main issues that we need to push. Of course, farmers will not be building tertiary roads, but we as producers need to make sure that our countries, our governments produce those tertiary roads. And here comes my question to you. If you were to just mention 2 topics in your country region that you believe should be included in the national coffee sustainability plans as a guideline. In the case of Colombia, you know, I can there are many, but I can say arbitrarily tertiary roads and connectivity, for instance. But I'm not a panelist. My point is, each one of you, starting with you, Ambassador Ortega, mention 2 topics that you would include in a national coffee sustainability plan for your country or for a country in Africa.
Sorry, Juan, can you just repeat that again? Sorry.
if you can mention two topics that you think should be included in a national coffee sustainability plan for an African country. I mean, it's not all countries are the same. I was mentioning as a way of example, but Roberto has the Colombian voice in this panel. I was mentioning Colombia, for instance, tertiary roads are a key issue, and connectivity is a key issue. I think those are two that I would include in a plan in Colombia. But what do you think in Africa? Mention two that you would include in a national coffee sustainability plan for an African country.
One, financing is very important. That's one of the biggest challenges facing the coffee industry in most of the African countries. They find financing, especially access to credit, very, very expensive. The other thing I would include is on the issue of machinery. The cost of machines for value addition is also something that needs to be included if we are going to pursue the value addition strategy. So those are the two: machines for value addition and financing.
Thank you. Mr. Tu, what would you include in Vietnam?
So Vietnam, we think about we talk about we have the new periods for the coffee. First, try to keep the production and keep the targets. We are the second coffee producer in the world. In case climate change and very competitive from other three, and also the cost increasing, and many factors affected to the coffee. But how to keep it is not so easy. So that we support the government support us, try to keep the Vietnam is the second biggest coffee producer in the world. And the second about how to increase the value of the coffee by producing for the instant coffee and roasted coffee, and try to export more instant coffee and other coffee products to increase the value, and also increase the consumption in the local in the home. Because so far now the consumption in Vietnam only about 10%, very low compared with Brazil and Indonesia and other countries. So we try to increase that in order to develop the coffee to keep the coffee develop keep the value added and to benefit for the farmer. That is our strategy for the long term later.
Okay, thank you very much. Anil, what do you think?
Basically, technology is one. Obviously, in the landscape that we have, we need to innovate, find newer technologies to make labor more productive, and to increase increase the quality and quantity of our crops. But I think if we are going to develop a plan and put a plan into the World Coffee Producers Forum's anthology of issues that they will bring up in Kigali, I think if you can put a good plan to increase consumption in India and convince our growers and our government that it is in their interest to open up the Indian coffee market. Today, our import duties are 100% on all coffee being imported. If you can do that, I think you would open up 400 million consumers to global coffee, to the global coffee industry. And that, I'm sure, would go a long way towards diminishing the coffee surpluses that are bound to come 3, 4, 5 years hence, once Brazil recovers, and hopefully I hope they do recover, Brazil recovers their productive capacity.
Thank you very much, Anil. Vanusia.
Well, Juan, before to give to you my two suggestions, I would like to say some words about the prosperity. I think we need to change our mindset, because sometimes we talk about prosperity, but we are very ashamed about that. We need to not be shy about that. And we need to talk about this, not feeling us as a guilty, because we are not guilty. We are looking for the prosperity of ourselves, of our families. And this is business. We would like to do and to produce coffee as a business, as any kind of business in the world. And as you said, if you are in the town and someone offered to you something that you can keep 2 or 10%, it's not enough for you. Why do we need to accept that and think that this is normal for a business? No, we can talk, and we need to think about coffee as a business for all of the links of this chain. And my suggestions, one of that, it's in the same direction of Anil. It's about technology. I think we have a lot of spaces for introduction of the agriculture of precision. We need to be more precise. We need to develop techniques and tools and new technologies to cut our costs. We're talking about fertilizers. We need to know very well how much of fertilizer we need to each plant. We need to know how much water we need for each plant and things like that. And we know that in many of other cultures, we already have this. And we need to bring this kind of precision technology to coffee too. And the other point, it's also related with technology, that we have a very poor connectivity here in Brazil. And we need to increase this and to improve the connectivity in the field here in Brazil.
Thank you, Vanusia, very much. Very precise, and I could not agree more with your prosperity point, which is what the forum is trying to push for. And you've been very active in the group of the forum since day one, same as Anil and Roberto, and it's been very active. Mr. Tu, Vietnam is very active as well. So we're very happy to hear that. Let's move to Roberto now. What do you think in the case of Colombia? What would you include in the National Coffee Sustainability Plan in Colombia?
Well, Juan, you already said it about the rural roads and connectivity. Those are key points. But you know what I would include as well now is a way to guarantee two things to the growing community. We need to go back to be self providers for our own food. It has happened now in Colombia that growers have relaxed very much, and sometimes we need to go to the villages to buy onions and tomatoes and all those things that we can grow ourselves. We need to be more autonomous on the way we feed ourselves. Number one. Number two is something that I would like to invite our colleagues from all over the world, which is we need the world to see us as a source of good good CO2 exchange, to be a capture of CO2 and a provider of oxygen to the world. We need the world to acknowledge that we grow coffee trees. When we talk about coffee, we don't grow just a beverage. We grow trees. And in Colombia, we have 4.3 billion trees that are every day capturing CO2 and going and giving it to the universe free oxygen. Now we need to charge for that. We in Colombia, we have done our job, and for every emission that we do in coffee, we capture 4. So we are a net provider of world's prosperity in terms of environment. So I would include that to see how can we, as an industry, as a coffee industry, claim for our growers a better price or a new income deriving from the fact that we are growing trees for the world.
Thank you, Roberto. You raised a very interesting point, which is one of the issues regarding regulation, which is the issue about deforestation and about carbon sequestration, all of that. And I think you could have put it in a better way. We are planting trees, and we are a big part of the carbon sequestration and positive force from the environment in the world. And people fail to look at that, to look at coffee as coffee trees sending oxygen to the atmosphere. So that's a very interesting, very avant-garde point that should be taken into account. René.
Juan Esteban, I'm gonna stick to 2 ideas. One related to all the trading capacity of producers. I would say we need to find new ways of trading our production. We must work towards direct trade, including all the domestic consumption opportunities that arise. I think we must transform our producers into businessmen. They must own their side of the negotiation. So trading is very important. Teaching our producers how to better trade their coffee is one idea. And the second I would stick to is precision agriculture. We must work with technology to increase the capacity of producers to be very precise and very efficient in their production. So trading and precision agriculture.
Thank you, René. It's 10 a.m. already. I want to before I finish, I want to thank our interpreters who have been working for us very hard. We know that we did the trials for this, and we realized how difficult it is to make simultaneous interpretation online without being in person with the same people and just replacing one interpreter to the next, and so and work together. So thank you to our interpreters who have been working very hard. I think this webinar, I hope it has been useful. I hope it has been educational. I hope we give the whole value chain a perspective on what farmers are seeing and farmers associations, what they are seeing. Everybody sitting in this panel, I mean, we're not the only ones, but are certainly leaders in their regions and their countries, and are very authorized voices that were telling us what's happening in the coffee production world and what to expect in the near future. I want to encourage everyone to go and follow our recently opened, let's say, digital networks. Again, Instagram is WCoffeePF, and also Facebook. We will be including things and ideas and points for discussion and for people to enjoy ideas, or any ideas are more than welcome. And we will continue working very hard and try to make sure that our next meeting covers all these topics in Rwanda, in Kigali, later next on July 11 and 12, 2022. With that, I want to thank our panelists. Thank you, Ambassador Ortega. Thank you, Mr. Tu, Anil, Vanusia, Roberto, Rene. You've been driving forces in the World Coffee Producers Forum, and we enjoy and learn a lot from your insights and your experience in these matters. So we'll see you next time. We're going to circulate the date for our next webinar, which is going to be similar topics, but from the industry and the roasting industry and the trade point of view. And we'll continue working hard towards farmers' prosperity and making sure that we can come to a point where farmers will have their, as I say, the upwards trending lives that will make sure that they are better off every single day, every month, every week, and every year. They will be better off than the previous year. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this, and we'll stay in touch with us, and we'll keep you posted on everything we're doing next. So next step, webinar in January, and we'll continue moving towards our meeting in Kigali on July 11 and 12th. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And happy holidays to you all.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Happy holidays,
Yes, and Happy New
everybody.
Year.
Merry
Bye-bye.
Christmas.
Thank you. Bye-bye.